don't have to be really even that good to earn the money that you want to make. It's a huge skill set. So I played on that. I've only ever worked at companies that have made more than 3 million a month, got dialed in marketing, great systems, great culture and leadership. And therefore, like somebody that's even better than me as a setter, making 5K a month, wouldn't be able to beat my income because I already had more income opportunities and a better offer to make towards 10K a month. Appointment setters online, the barrier to entry, there's loads of setters, there's nothing short of competition, but the bar to that competition is extremely low. It's very easy to separate yourself here and become the best, which is why that for me is such a concern. Like, why is it so easy to be a great appointment setter? Like, we need to level up the standard of the industry. The way that companies hire it's kind of a 3-section priority order. First section, they try and hire internally to upgrade them to a certain position. Second is for a referral from someone that they know and trust. And the third way is through like cold applications online. Now, the third way, you're competing against 200, 300 salespeople. For 7th level, it might even be more, 500 to 1,000, because it's such a big company, right? So I realized at that point, look, I'm humble enough to admit I'm a good salesperson, but I'm not going to be the best of that lot. I know that for sure. So why not just at least develop relationships that get me in the door a lot quicker, as opposed to going through the usual route that everyone else goes through.
Welcome back to the SDR Hire podcast. And today we're continuing this theme of high ticket selling and closing. And today I have the biggest pleasure to talk to Taylor O'Hare. Taylor has personally produced over $2.1 million in high ticket sales as a remote appointment setter and closer combined, while working for some of the biggest names in the industry like Jeremy Miner and his 7th level sales training company. Others like Sales Sniper, Pump Up Program, Legendary Marketer. Today, Taylor is running his own business for hiring, training, and managing top 10% setters in the world. So Taylor, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, mate. Really excited. I think we're going to cover a lot. Looking forward to it.
Same. I'm super excited. I always like to start from the beginning. How did you end up in high ticket sales? Did you just stumble in it? Were you trying to find a way to make money online? There are different ways people stumble in it. What was yours?
Yeah, it's crazy because I always ask people the same question when I do my own podcast. I would say it came from stumbling. You see it on YouTube when people talk about high ticket sales. You need to take this many calls, you make this much commission, then you make 10K a month. And it's, wow, that's the dream, right? That's the pipe dream that you get sold oftentimes. So that's what I really come across was Dan Lok. He was talking about the industry quite a lot. It almost made me feel like he was the founder of the industry, but it's been quite a while that this industry's been going on. So I came across that from Dan Lok specifically, but I was in sales before. I did door-to-door sales for 1.5 years, cold calling within that same industry. When COVID happened, we couldn't knock doors again. So we had to really pivot, which was a bit of a crazy experience. I then left that industry, got into actually B2B sales. It's much more like on the advertising side here in the UK. I did that for about 6-7 months, did really well, but I just didn't have that freedom. The big thing that really got me was that I had to ask to go on holiday. And after doing that, I was like, I don't want to have to do that. I actually want to be able to decide for myself if I want to go or not, which in high ticket sales, you can. Obviously, you still would have to request, make sure you do it in advance, but you can literally go and work at the same time, which is the beauty of it. That was the big turning point for me. And then I got into the industry June 2021. I started working with Sales Sniper as one of my first offers, which are a huge sales agency. I think they're still around, but back in 2021, 22, they were like the company to work for at the time. Everyone wanted to be there. And I got in there as an appointment setter over the DMs, over the phone. And then, that was my journey ever since. Obviously, there's a lot of barriers to the growth that I've had, but that's really how I got involved.
Beautiful.
In the first place.
So you had experience both with that, let's say B2B sales and then high ticket closing. What's the difference? Is there any?
It's the sophistication, I think, the sophistication level of your prospects that you speak with. Oftentimes when you're doing a high ticket sale, you might come across what's called a B2C style, like a business opportunity offer, right? For example, that's the ones that I was often in, was like either sales training to sell more, or as YouTube automation is an offer that I'm working on at the moment. Legendary Marketer was an affiliate marketing offer. But it's just helping people come out of their 9-to-5s and then going into a new business opportunity online. Essentially, that's the typical offers that I was a part of.
Real quick, if you're a sales leader or you know someone who's looking for support when it comes to cold outreach, cold calling, cold email, LinkedIn outreach, we build SDR and BDR teams for companies or complement their existing teams with top talent, remote SDRs and BDRs that are exceptional in outreach skills. So if you'd like to get in touch, just visit sdrhire.com and book a call with our team. All right, back to the show. And comparing to those different opportunities for yourself, obviously, I can assume, other than requesting vacations whenever you wanted, were you actually able to get out of that 9 to 5 type of role? And were you actually able to make more money compared to regular employment where you were a sales guy?
So I did it the worst way possible. I would always recommend everyone that goes into high ticket sales, don't always jump straight in like I did. I was living in an apart hotel in Nottingham at the time. I thought, screw it, I'm just going to give this a go. I don't want to do this job anymore. I have that all or nothing personality. As soon as I'm checked out of a role and I want to do something different, my commitment level drops and I don't want to be a part of it. So at that point, I just thought, screw it, I'm just going to go straight in. I paid for a mentor that I couldn't afford at the time. I had to find a way to make payments on it. Then I had to transition back to my parents, then come back into the industry, then eventually on my own 2 feet. But that took me a good few months. But I think I have been able to make a lot more money than a 9 to 5 job. I think the road towards 20K a month has been a longer road for me. Some people can do it way quicker. I've definitely gone through the long path and had a lot of challenges that I'd say it was somewhat self-imposed, but it's what's helped me to grow a lot while I have been in the space and develop more of a brand.
What do you mean when you say self-imposed? Like some limiting beliefs? What was it?
Limiting beliefs for sure. I always had this idea that like this marketed route of become an appointment setter, then become a closer, then a manager, then a director. That's always the route. And that's what I believed because it was marketed to me. I never thought just to do what I wanted to pave. That's the important part of the high ticket space. You can create your own path, right? It doesn't work like a usual job where it's linear and what's coming up. You can pave your own way and create it. I hadn't realized that until probably about the last, I would say 6 to 8 months, where I've really realized some huge internal changes to realize that this is more of a business. I learned way before, like 2 and a bit years ago, that you have to have a business mindset in this industry. You will get exposed extremely quickly if you don't. That's what the high ticket world does to you. You get exposed very quickly as to your capabilities, your mindset, all of those things. That's what I love about the space. It really forces you to grow, even if you don't want to sometimes.
And we've seen so many folks who have been high ticket setters, closers, ended up becoming entrepreneurs. Even if not, you're not receiving a salary, you got to open up an LLC or whatever the type of business format is available in your country. Yeah. I love what you said. It makes you go into that business mode and got to figure things out or just die figuratively. Yeah. It was funny. You mentioned you did it the hardest way possible. It reminded me of back in 2022, I had a really good job as a sales guy, whatever, in a really great startup, growing French company, very famous. Even today, they're like a $25 million business right now. It's super cool. But I was restless and I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. I wasn't into high ticket selling, but I was into entrepreneurship. I was pondering, should I or shouldn't I? Just like you described, I stopped thinking about my job. I checked out and I was all in on this. So I did, but it came with its own set of setbacks. I was broke, basically. It was really hard doing anything because I didn't have the stability, but it did make me grow to an extent. And I think it's comparable to what you just described.
It's exactly the same. I was totally broke as well. I couldn't afford my mentor. So at that point, it was like, I either make this happen or I don't. And when you're in that position, that's when you get the most out of yourself, I find. The part that I learned from taking that challenging route is I developed some very strong foundations as an appointment setter. And while I was doing that, I was building my brand, exposing some of my numbers, what was working well for me, what wasn't. And I was starting to be seen as a top performing appointment setter. Yeah. At that point, that's where I realized there is a need and a demand for someone like me to come in and improve the quality of the market. Because appointment setters online, the barrier to entry, there's loads of setters. There's nothing short of competition. But the bar to that competition is extremely low. It's very easy to separate yourself here and become the best, which is why that for me is such a concern. Like, why is it so easy to be a great appointment setter? Like, we need to level up the standard of the industry, to help other companies grow and flourish. So
is that what you're doing right now?
Yeah, exactly that. That's the whole reason I'm doing my school community, managing more teams, teaching other great setters to be setter leaders so they can manage more teams. It's just extending that influence that further develops the industry and then attracts better appointment setters, which is better salespeople overall.
Yeah, I love it. And I want to talk about your business right now and what you're doing. I'm just curious. You used to work with Jeremy Miner. How did that actually happen? Did you apply? Did they headhunt you? Was it your brand? Like, how did that happen?
So it was utilizing my brand, right? Now I was very particular with it. I realized that the way that companies hire is it's a 3-section priority order. First section, they try and hire internally to upgrade them to a certain position. Second is for a referral from someone that they know and trust. And the third way is through like cold applications online, right? Now, the third way, you're competing against 200, 300 salespeople. For 7th level, it might even be more, 500 to 1,000, because it's such a big company.
That's right.
So I realized at that point, look, I'm humble enough to admit I'm a good salesperson, but I'm not going to be the best of that lot. I know that for sure. So why not just at least develop relationships that get me in the door a lot quicker, as opposed to going through the usual route that everyone else goes through? So what I did is I noticed that they had 2 groups. They were working with Sales Sniper. They were actually affiliated together at the time. And I wanted to get the attention of the CEO of Sales Sniper, the hiring manager, director, and CFO. They were all inside this group called the Closing Code Community. So what I did, I actually paid for their role play training to show that I was actually a serious candidate, somebody that's a good student. I attended their weekly calls, role played, developed myself. And I then started posting content in that group to help them get more sales, to let them know how good this program is. And as a result, I think there was a few people that enrolled into the program as laying out some of my posts. And in that, I got reactions from all of the guys I was targeting. All of them either liked, commented, and they saw that what I was doing. So I was making sure they knew that I was someone that you need to take seriously. I was visible to them. So I really focused heavily on that. And then when I started applying, and I then spoke to Marco Cortese, who's one of the best closers I know. I think he's hit 100K a month as an Italian. Very strong accent, just shows how it's done. And I reached out to him, had a quick 10-minute interview, and I was hired on the spot. It was the easiest interview I've ever done. Impressive. And that's because I put myself out there and I showed that I was someone that's valuable and actually serious. So that was how that happened. It was, and then a transition into 7th level from being a part of Sales Sniper, which at that point was the easiest thing I had to do as well. So yeah, that was the whole process.
Nice. And how long did you stay there? And is that where you transitioned into a closer? Did you even transition into a closer? Yeah.
Yeah, I did for 7 months of Legendary Marketer. It was a mixture of setting and closing because it was a free call process. But with 7th level, I was there for 1 year and 3 months as a DM setter and a phone setter. So I did a mixture of roles. I was getting into a little bit of closing, but I had a feeling in my heart where I just needed a change of environment, culture. I felt like I was getting very comfortable. There was room for growth for me, but I just thought I wanted to expand into a different segment of the market. So that's when I found Legendary. Hit some really good milestones over there in that free call process, really developed how I humanize more in sales rather than focus on skill set, because you need to be a good human before you have a good skill set, right? Super important. So I did that, and then obviously led into doing more set of leadership stuff just after Legendary. Yeah.
Very cool. When did you get the idea to start your own business? So you mentioned you observed that it was the bar wasn't that high, and then you just realized there's this gap in the market of like just quality setters and quality systems for setters. When did that happen?
I got thrown into it. Like, it wasn't my intention. My intention was just be a great sales performer and get paid well for it. Hit 10 to 20K a month and I'm Gucci. That's my thinking. And then the moment I started getting referrals from people saying, look, can you coach this setting team? Some of their setters are quite low on skill set. Bearing in mind, I didn't really coach that much before, didn't really do any leadership stuff. I did do door-to-door leadership, but that's different type of style. So I didn't really get into it until people started sending me like referrals. I then started making money from all these little coaching gigs on the side, and even charging money for placements for recruiting top talent, and then getting some good results from that. It was like, oh, so I think people, they have a need for this. It's very clear that there's a big gap in the market. And that's when I got thrown into the deep end with it. And I wanted to learn the management side and consulting, because that's really where the money's at if you're good at managing like multiple offers. So I worked with Win It Sales, worked with them for about, so it was since April time. We're talking like, what, 7 months, 6-7 months I was there. And yeah, developed all my management style from a really good guy who's one of the best setters that I know. And then from there, I decided to move and just create my own agency, just quit and start from scratch. Yeah,
that's super cool. You said that you were doing like setting by chat, right? DM setting?
Yeah, Facebook groups.
Facebook, okay. Yeah. And those leads, were those cold leads that you were reaching out of the blue? Or were those, let's say, leads that were prompted by a lead magnet or something like that, where they raised their hands, left their contact information? Like, what kind of leads were you reaching out to? Totally cold or different?
Yeah, definitely not cold, right? The thing is with the high ticket world is you're usually reaching out to warm leads. I know that you're obviously heavy in the tech space. That's very cold, right? And that's what I did actually start with before the high ticket world. But no, these guys know about us. They've bought into the marketing, the advertising. So that's why being in the high ticket space, another skill set to really develop is offer selection. How do you find great offers where it's actually easier to do your job and you don't have to be really even that good to earn the money that you want to make? It's a huge skill set. So I played on that. I've only ever worked at companies that have made more than 3 million a month, that have got dialed in marketing, great systems, great culture and leadership. And therefore, like somebody that's even better than me as a setter, making 5K a month, wouldn't be able to beat my income because I already had more income opportunities and a better offer to make towards 10K a month. So I played onto that as my advantage.
I see. Cool, man. And so I read on one of your pages, so there are 4 elements to your business, right? Like you have one product, which is like low ticket subscription for paid trainers for setter, like the school community that you mentioned, the setter placing, the systems and management and consulting for companies. So out of those 4, and I'm very curious how you're managing to do all 4. I don't know how big is your team, but which one of those is, let's say, the most interesting to you? Where do you find the most like personal value from?
I think as far as fulfillment, I really enjoy the management and the consulting, right? Obviously, there's lots of problems to solve. You have to grow. I use AI a hell of a lot in my works to help me like solve problems, think through things. And I think that helps really for me to expand and improve my leadership capabilities. So that's what I enjoy, I'd say, the most. Takes up a lot of my time. Financially, it does help me the most as well. But what I love about the recruiting side of things is it really has mastered the time for money equation, right? So, because to make a connection with a setter that I know to place into a company, that takes, for me to make the connections like 5-10 minutes. Vetting them will take an extra 5-10 minutes. And I may have made 2K just from 10 to 20 minutes of a connection. Right. So if you think about the hourly rate for that, it's amazing. What if I did it 3 placements, that'd be like what, $6,000 in an hour.
Exactly.
So the time for money equation for that works out extremely well. So I love making referrals and getting paid for making connections. I even do it outside of recruiting as well, helping businesses solve problems and getting paid for it. So that one I find that's really lucrative. But management and consulting, if you really prove and get enough buy-in from the owner, really prove yourself as an asset, proactively communicate, work hard, develop those strong relationships within the team, you can negotiate really handsome revenue share deals, which is one of the ones that I've got now. They've generated, literally, November's gone, 670K cash collected from only 70K that they was doing in May. So I've helped them scale up a hell of a lot since then.
Almost.
Yeah, and I'm getting 2.5% off of that amount of cash collected. So do the math with that. That will tell you.
That's great.
But that comes from getting a lot of buy-in, having really amazing business relationships to enable you to have that kind of deal set up and a lot of trust up front. So,
How'd you build that trust? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so I was working with Win It Sales, managing the offer. Me and Nick Elia was managing it at the time together. She was working heavily on it. I worked extremely hard with that offer, and like they broke 3 or 4 records as I was managing them. So I already built that trust up front. Then as I left Win It Sales and I developed a really strong relationship with the team, that the guys who were managing the closer side, they asked all the setters, how do we feel about Taylor? Is he a good manager? Is he someone you want to work with? And all of them were like, yeah, I want to go to war with Taylor. Like, he cannot leave. He must be here. Like, they were fighting for me to stay. Right. And that's been really important, is like when you're managing and leading people, it's all about the relationships you build with them, and you do as much for them as they do for you. And that's ultimately how you get the best out of a team. I'm willing to do what they do. There's times where I've come in and done some dials for them just to see what they're seeing, understand where we're at from the trenches standpoint. So that's really where it all comes from, is build that dependency from the business owner by actually having relationships with the setters that you manage and the team overall. That's where I found that it worked best for me. I had some just amazing relationships. So the trust was built so high, because the online space is a very emotional space. Businesses outside of the space, it's like quite tame. It doesn't feel like it's such a bubble. It doesn't feel like the business is going to go anytime soon. It always feels very stable in that world. But in the online sales world, it is very much up and down. The IG account just shut down a few days ago, which shuts off most of our lead channels. So it's down. And now we've got to figure this out, solve the problem, figure out what to do. But that's the turbulence in this space. If you want security and stability, this is not the space for you. But if you want the freedom, the fulfillment that comes with it, and very high income potential, it's here. But if you're willing to cope with the uncertainty, it's a good space.
I think that lead gen and sales in general are those types of environments, and you just got to be the person who can either you are already a type of person that can swim through that, or you have to become, just you mentioned in the beginning, really fast, or you just die off or whatever, you
Yeah.
get called off the herd. Okay, let's say that I'm an agency and I'm pondering, having a high ticket offer or whatever, and I want to work with you. How would that look like actually? Where do you begin? Do you begin from creating the lead magnet and then creating a script off of that, and then, or how does that process look like? So from the perspective of helping a business set up setter processes and everything
Oh,
else,
okay.
how do you approach that process?
Yeah, the first thing is I will do an audit of what I'm seeing from the business. So I want to see what numbers they're actually tracking, because a lot of business owners, yes, they might be thinking that they're tracking the right numbers, but most of the time they miss out a lot of the details. So I want to understand what they've actually tracked so far, the overall performance of the team, their communication channels, and accountability is really important as well. Because as a setter manager and coach, your job is just to level up skill set and hold setters accountable. Literally, it's very easy jobs to leverage as well, and like find processes to leverage for systems. But I'm looking at how they communicate. Have they got really aligned Slack channels that enable setters to communicate in different fields? Do they have an onboarding training for new setters that come in to get them very quickly ramped up, so they know how to do the offer and get on it quickly? I want them dialing ideally within 3 or 4 days. I want it to be a very quick turnover process where they can show commitment and provide the necessary expectations. Another thing, does the company clearly communicate the vision, the mission, and the values that it represents? Because sometimes appointment setters come into a role, they're excited about the product, but they have no idea about how well it fulfills, what kind of team that they're actually involved in. They don't get a sense of what the culture is. And culture is very important. And in each of my teams, that's what I always want to create, is that sense of collaboration, growth, and accountability the whole time. So that's what I always look for. And when it comes to building in the systems, I centralize it onto one Google Drive. And there's like certain segments, there's additional resources, there's scripts, set of progress reports, tracking systems, so I know what numbers to track as well. And then even just instructions on like how to lead, how to have leadership conversations for any leaders that are going to be taking on board that team. So it's just all facets of managing that appointment setting team in one centralized place, just so that the manager doesn't have to create SOPs on the spot. If the setter asks them a question, it's check this doc out. That's what covers it. Yeah. And it's just a very ease of use management system to help lead the teams.
Yeah, I like it. It sounds like when you come in, you start simply managing an existing setter team. Does it happen that you work with companies that don't have a setter function at all?
Yeah, I've had a few startups that have come to me and listen, I don't have a setter yet. I want one, but can you help me with recruiting a setter? And they're giving me the system so that I can work on one. Right, I'm working with a farming company at the moment. So their prospects are farmers in the US, very niche market, and they do not have a setting team yet. They don't track many of the numbers at all for the setting world. So yeah, that's going to be a from scratch project. And I just did another one recently for a guy on IG that helps realtors to get more leads, more buyer leads for themselves. And he doesn't have a setting team. He's had 1 or 2 sales in the last 3 months, right? So he is like literally as from scratch as you can get. But it's giving him the necessary foundations to know that when he does build up a setting team and has a cold caller, he knows how to manage them. So that's exactly what it's all about. It's just building that infrastructure to where the setter, like the CEO, the person in charge, can step out from the business. They don't have to do all the outreach themselves, but they have the facilitation of bringing on a setter to do it for them. And they just oversee, quite simply, just using the docs and templates I've given them.
And which kinds of appointment setters are more successful? Those that are working off of, let's say, warm leads, or those that are working off of like cold and doing cold calling and outreach?
Yeah, when it comes to the high ticket world, it has to be the warmest, like opt-in leads, right? Ones that come from socials, they enter their information. And obviously that's done a lot more nowadays, capturing email and phone number info. But the reality is what's more important in 2024 and coming into 2025 is it's going to be speed to lead. How quickly do you reach out to that person that's opted in? Does it take you 3 minutes, or does it take you 3 hours or the next day? And the slower you are to getting back to your leads, the less bookings that you're going to get, less conversions, less people showing up, just less opportunity to close. Yeah. Right. So this industry especially is moving closer towards like how quickly we can get onto our leads and like lead penetration. Are you reaching out to leads often enough, or are you just giving up after a double dial? So there's those things that I really look for is activity within a setter. And yeah, the success from cold leads, it depends on the industry, right? If we're talking B2B tech, the access to different leads you can get, yeah, then that works. Definitely does. But in the high ticket world, speaking to a B2C audience, these are normal mums and pups that are just trying to look into ways to make money, you're going to be scraping for 1,000 leads just to maybe get 1 or 2 bookings. And that's not sustainable for a business, quite honestly.
Yeah, I can understand some B2B tech businesses are seeing the same metrics, to be honest. So in general, like completely cold calling, I think is extremely hard. Some other businesses are seeing more success. We're seeing like between 5 and 10% pickup rates. And then I would say like you get 1 or 2 meetings for every 100 or 150 dials or something like that. It really depends on the data quality and everything else. It's screwed up compared to, let's say, warm calling. Awesome. Okay. Like it feels like a completely different world, even though we have so many overlaps with the B2B tech, but I keep realizing how big of a bubble tech really is. And honestly, I never knew up until recently about high ticket selling. And so for me, this is just, it's so cool just to understand how things are being done differently in other industries. That's why I'm really keen on understanding how this actually works. And let's talk about recruitment of these setters. So I'm in the business of recruiting SDRs, right? Sales development reps. And you said that it takes you like 10 minutes to figure out whether somebody's good or not. Like, how do you actually know if somebody's good or not good as a potential setter for your or somebody else's business?
Yeah, so what I do is based on how I manage setters, I always look for like their ability to think, which is really important, and then clearly communicate what they're thinking. And those 2 things is what I look for in a setter. So I base it on situations that I look for them to be competent in. For example, like if you've come across a low show up rate, what is your process for analyzing why it's low? And then how do you then propose a solution to figure it out? And then from there, I want to understand what their thought process is. And they'll just send me a voice note or a written message describing what that looks like, right? Same for if the conversation with a prospect's going badly, they're derailing it. They are getting the focus on their agenda rather than yours. How do you get it back on track again? What are you using as far as conversational flexibility to get it going? How do you build trust with someone within the first 60 seconds? What are you doing to do that? So it's like asking those situational questions is really important. I don't even have to hop on an interview with people to know if that person is good or not, because all I'm trying to understand is how they solve problems. And you can gather a real response from a ChatGPT response. I've had those setters that kind of, you can tell they're using AI on the screen and they're literally just reading the solution. It's come on. I know cheating can sometimes be a good thing when it comes to like cheating on tests, getting answers, but like it needs to come from the way you think. So that's really what I look for in appointment setters, usually getting that from, and just the way they communicate on intro videos as well, like their 60-second intro videos, what energy do they bring? How excitable are they, using like all of the non-verbal factors correctly that make me enticed and curious to want to work with them? Or is it just, they're like just really flat and they look like depressed when they have a really bad background? That like the fact that they haven't taken that into consideration, like how professional their background is and the quality, it's like that already tells me how much they value the importance of their role and separating themselves. So it's just reading beyond the lines with the way that these people are applying.
This is very cool. I used a similar process for going through my candidates. I just have them do like intro videos. I even have introductory like instructions, what they are supposed to talk about. And more often than not, I come across things like silly background noises, a really weird background, like I don't know, like unmade bed. It's not about the unmade bed. I don't really care, but it's about, come on, you have to have that idea. How are you going to be perceived by somebody who's basically thinking about giving you a job? And so stuff like that. I also come across things like reading off of a ChatGPT screen in an intro video. I'm like,
their eyes are just like this, like they're just looking down the screen. It's not
and
ideal.
You can hear the fluff in the words. You simply see that they're not like, you gotta have those ums and ahs and everything else, and it needs to be natural. And so
another one is, sorry to interrupt, I usually get this a lot. I'm extremely driven. I am willing to do whatever it takes. It's like a Tony Robbins like motivational talk. Those for me are the worst. It's okay, how have you backed it up? What examples have you got? It makes you more skeptical the more like that you sound, to be honest. So that's another one.
I might even redo the instructions for the intro video, because all I really want to see is what kind of offers, products you've sold, to which audience size. So were you selling to like mid-market, enterprise? In my case, like for the tech world, what have been the ticket sizes, right? Was it like 10K, 30K, 60K, half a million? Amazing. And like some background. Have you actually sold something? Have you actually helped sell something? That's all I need to know. And obviously the cold calling aspect of it. And can you actually write cold emails and cold calls? But other than that, I don't really care about any other things. But what are some nonverbal cues that you mentioned that you look for, or at least some that come to mind?
Yeah, just overall, like how they express themselves is really important. Are they quite open with their body language, or are they just like literally like this, looking at the camera, very close body language, like very?
What does that tell you? Like, let's say that they slouched and they don't have that energy that you want to see. What does that actually tell you?
It just tells me they haven't really thought through and placed importance on the intro video. Yeah. I'm like, the fact that you've just literally filmed that and go, right, I'm just going to throw it out there. If you've got these leads that are coming through to you, right, and you want to reach out to them, make sure you provide a good introduction, and you're just like, oh, I'll just reach out, see what happens. There's no thought process or anything like that behind it. They don't care about that first impression. And if you're working my leads and you don't care about that, like, why should I give my leads to you? So it's just, that's why for me, it's the thinking and actions, right, that are behind it, not even necessarily the fact that like they are slouched. And it's like the fact that you're even doing that when you're promoting yourself to someone, it's like, what's going through your head is what I'm trying to understand. Because if you're a business owner pitching to a company, you want to be as well presented as possible, right? And provides no cause for concerns. And yeah, when people treat it as, oh, it's just a job that I need to clock in and clock out to, then that's where they leave leeway for the quality of their videos and the quality of their communication. So it's like, that's why I read very beyond it as opposed to literally what I see at face value.
I love that. I use this term of like government employee. Like, obviously governments are very inefficient, and sometimes I come across SDRs, sales folks, whatever. They're not looking to make money. They're not looking to make sales. They're looking for a job that's going to give them security, stability, and basically allow them not to work, like to work the least amount of possible to make the most amount of money, which there's honestly nothing wrong with that, but that's just the worst type of personality for this job. I'm considering this setters, SDRs, it's the same thing. And like government employees, literally, they want to work the least amount of possible to get as much money as they can from the opportunity. And to me, that's just devastating. And I made the mistake of hiring a couple of those folks earlier in my career. And so today I'm really looking for folks who are just hungry, and they're going to do whatever it takes, including, not to get me wrong, nothing bad, but including how do they present themselves on that video? What can they tie from their background about the specific role or offer that we're talking about, whatever, right? Yeah. And so what has been your, like, have you come across government employees before?
Not specifically. I think there's been prospects that I've spoken to that are government employees before. And typically they're the most analytical. They take very long to think about making decisions. They're typically the slower type of prospects when we speak to them in the B2C world, right? So that's the experience that I have, but like, I don't have enough of a pool to judge what they're like. I have no idea.
I mean, I was thinking in colloquial terms, like government employees, not necessarily government employees, but like just the type of personality that's like slow to make a decision, inefficient, and not really thinking like a business owner, but more like, I just need a job.
So all the time I get messages, and the ones that I ignore are always the ones that are like, oh, I've seen that you have some roles you're hiring for. Have you got any for me? Yeah, exactly. It's like, I hear it. I appreciate you asking, but none of it's aimed towards helping someone. It's all about what, like, that message means, what can you give me?
Yeah, exactly.
In its simplest terms. So that for me, if I get people like that, there's already a sense of entitlement before they've even connected with me. And when I reach out to business owners or people, I'm always trying to give them credit first, or figure out what is it that you need help with specifically. And for example, there was a business owner recently that he was looking for appointment setters. He's like building up this new dial system, and he's got working with more clients. So I said, hey, I'm assuming you're wanting more setters to work on your offers that you're managing. Yeah, cool. I've got like a guy who's got Caribbean setters. They're really like high value as far as what they can bring, low cost, and will really help you to implement it for your clients. So I made the connection, right? And then from there, now it's enabled me to have a podcast with this guy. Nice. Matt Ryder. I don't know if you've heard of him, but that's who I was working with previously.
Cool.
right? And from there, that connection's just come from me like helping them out. I also made a nice referral fee for making that connection as well. But yeah, it just comes from you helping someone first, right? Trying to solve problems and looking for what problems people have. Because more influential people, they have way more problems than the average person.
Oh, of course.
So from my side, there's more opportunities that I can solve for, right? And people just don't look at things that way. They look at where's me in that equation. They think about that first. And I used to be that guy, by the way, transparently. I'm not saying it like I've always been like this. I haven't. I've trained myself that way. But at first, it was always like, what can I get? What can I get? And that's when I nearly quit the space because I was just not performing and showing up like an entitled salesperson. Yeah. As I always say, an entitled setter is a broke setter. Yep. I'd never wanted to be that person again.
I think everyone is a little bit like that until they come to realize how things actually work. I used to be like that as well. Yep. But then stepping into these SDR, BDR roles, especially reaching out, doing cold outreach, whether it's cold calling, whether it's cold emails, it's about the prospect. Nobody cares about you or what you want. And you probably receive as many messages as I do of like business owners pitching you marketing services, this and that. And they I am this and that, and I come from this, and I've built this, and it's all about them. And we've known this in the cold outreach space it's about them. It's about what you can observe about them, what you can compliment them on, what you can provide for them and give them. And the more value you can give up front, the better. And to be honest, I think that if you hadn't made that transition in your mind, that mindset transition, you would have probably been one of those broke setters, because that's a broke mindset, because you're focusing on yourself rather than somebody else. I love that. That was super insightful. I do have, let's say, one more question when it comes to a killer setter. Like, can you tell from far away that somebody is going to be a really impressive setter or a salesperson, closer, whatever? Like, are there any things that you've kind of handpicked that you can say, oh, this is going to make a killer appointment setter, closer, whatever?
You know what? Before I answer that, the funny thing is how we always attribute like killer, savage, like we attribute these mentalities to a salesperson. It makes me laugh because sometimes I say that, like, I want a savage or I want a killer. I want a murderer to be at an appointment. So that's something that I do. I just find it funny. But that being said, yes, to find a really great setter, the main thing is it's the opposite of what I said. It's really the accurate thinking side of things. How detailed are they in their communication? Are they proactive? Right, as far as their actions? Are they like answering the questions before I bring them up? If they're doing all of that, I know that's a business owner within the business. That's what I look for. The entrepreneurs, right? The guys that like they over deliver on their intro videos and they're like, hey, so just with this offer, I'm letting you know, here are the stats, here are the numbers that I got. The reason why this number's pretty low is because of X, Y, and Z, and here's what I did to work on it. And they're literally giving me just all of these data points, all of these explanations, and they're super clear. And they overdo it almost, where it's okay, thank you for giving me all the data. You are super driven and super dialed in. The way I say it is, I'm looking for a dialed in Dave. They're just always on top of it, absolutely everything. So yeah, that's the main thing. And just the way that they think overall about solving problems compared to a lower level setter, they see a problem as a problem that they need to just run away from, which used to be me, right? But now the other setters look at it as more of an opportunity to then proactively grow from it. And they just have that growth orientation and mindset. And of course, the drive, right? Without the drive or ambition, there's no point. So that's what I guess helps to have that mentality, the proactivity and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah.
That's beautiful. All right. So you have your business that has basically 4, let's say, revenue streams or four ways that you're making money. You have a YouTube channel. I know that you're doing some interesting things on the engagement side of things with these business owners and these different setters. So can you talk more about what's going on currently in your business? What are you doing?
Yeah, so there's quite a few things. I'm working on an AI call reviewer at the moment that I'm going to be implementing in a couple of the offers that I'm training at the moment. Okay. So it's literally going to review every single call, right? Every single outbound call, inbound call that's taken. And what it's going to do, it's going to pick up on patterns based on the way that I've trained it to review calls. For example, I do call reviews quite often with setters. And the thing is, it takes up so much time doing call reviews and a lot of energy, in fact. So outsourcing that to AI, by the way that I've trained it, it's going to enable me to identify patterns and actually get more data on what I'm seeing from the way that the setters take calls, right? So I'm going to have a dashboard that helps me know like where setters are going wrong in their calls, where they're losing control, where they may be losing deals. And it also is good marketing feedback for offers, So often marketers are like, what's going on with the calls? Are the leads unqualified? Are they more qualified? So I'm then giving them also lead data as well. So it's a really good solution for offers. And I'll be rolling that out to my school community. Anyone that's in my $27 a month school community can actually review their own calls using that AI bot as well. So should be rolled out in the next couple of weeks. And the one I'm most excited about is our Marbella Setter retreat that we have going on in February 2025. So I know not many people do this. They do like in-person meets and stuff like that, and maybe in the local country. But I've decided I want to have a fully built out Setter retreat in Marbella. We're going to be in a 8-bedroom villa, basically talking through all the things that I've been doing to growth operate within companies and then have multiple streams of income to where I'm now really where I want to be income-wise, helping in the same industry that I'm very passionate about, which is high-ticket appointment setting. Yeah, I'm going to be extending that out, and it's going to enable me to influence more offers, help more guys out, and just raise the standard of the industry, which quite literally needs to be raised. So far, we've nearly sold out all the VIP tickets. So we do have non-VIP tickets available as we go now. Yeah, so VIP, they'll get like one-to-one audit sessions. They'll actually be staying in the villa. Non-VIPs, they won't have the one-on-ones. They'll still have access to all my materials, but they won't be staying in the villa. Right. But either way, still get an immense amount of value from either side. But obviously, some people want to be around me, see how I behave, see how I act. So it just gives them a good insight into just me as well as what they'll be learning as well.
So what's the goal with that type of activity? Okay, making money, but is there like an end goal to it? Obviously, again, raising the bar for the whole industry. Yeah. What do you want to achieve? Is it like a brand play? Is it more like a bringing more people to the community? Like what's it about?
Yeah, definitely putting more authority on my brand. Absolutely. It's going to help knowing that like because these are all setters that either I've worked with or I've known that have hit the 5 to 10K a month threshold as a setter. They've done an amazing job, really performed. And these are guys that personally I like, people that I actually want to have a good time with. Yeah. So it's like the level of the relationships, the more in-person meets, I think that's really helping. But also it's an extension of being able to help more offers, because as a setter manager and coach, I can't manage like 10 offers at once. Even my limit personally is like 4. If I have 4 offers, that's it. I'm not going to manage any more because my level of fulfillment and bandwidth is just way tighter. So yeah, it's just if I have reached my bandwidth and there's more offers out there that need support, I have setter managers that can also help these offers as well that I've trained, guys that have access to all of the stuff that I use to come into offers. And then, yeah, it just means we're expanding our influence amongst many more offers, right? So, yeah.
I love that. Amazing. One thing that I just realized is everybody, I think you started the podcast with this, but everybody's trying to get to that closer role and then the manager and then the director, etc. And that you just stayed in this and kept honing your skills with the appointment setting, but then also managing setters, and you just realized you can just build a huge business around only the setting function, which is just, I find it really beautiful. It's unique. It's not something something that people do. Obviously, that's something that's setting you completely differently opposed to everybody else. I love that.
Yeah, of course. I think that the main thing is with appointment setting, there's loads of people that do what I do, but the thing is about this space, as much as people talk about competition, being the number one or whatever that looks like, I always look at it as far as collaboration. If there are people that are doing the exact same thing as me and they're doing it well, I want to figure out what they're doing to do so well and learn from them. And likewise, even if we're competitors, I'll still give them information about what I do to help them grow. Because overall, if we help each other level up, we help the industry level up as a whole and attract better setters. We can provide better solutions. Because the thing is, monopolies in this space, don't get me wrong, they can work out, but it's just as far as from an ethical standpoint, it just provides more opportunity to everyone else. And there is more than enough for everybody, is what I find being in the online space, right? So I'm all about collaboration when it comes to like other setter managers and setter leaders.
Awesome. I love it, man. The same, although I wouldn't call you and I competitors by any means, simply because like we really work, but in whatever sense or form, I'm really glad we did this, man. And for the end, is there anything that you would like to tell to this audience? Obviously, we're going to link all of your links down below the videos, but is there something that you would like the audience to go home with?
Yeah, definitely. If you want to learn more about what it's like being in the high ticket world and the realities, like I will never sell the dream, or yes, there's money that can be made and I've achieved a lot of the things that I wanted to, but at the same time, you need to understand the realities of this space. My YouTube channel pretty much covers all of that. So definitely go to the YouTube, Message me on Facebook if you've got further questions. If you want to be part of the retreat, the school community is obviously all there. So I'm happy to support in any way I can. But likewise, I think just even seeing this podcast, focus on the way that you're thinking through things, the way you're viewing yourself, especially as a business owner. If you're here to just do a job, clock in and clock out, I will say this, like sales is not for you. If you're wanting to make beyond like that 60, 70K a year level, there needs to be that level of entrepreneurship and taking responsibility for everything that you're doing. If you don't do that, then expect, it's like what they say, sales is the lowest paid hard job and the highest paid easy job, I think is one thing, right? It is what you make it, and that's the beauty of sales, right? So that's all I implore for all of you, is to level up those standards.
Beautiful. Taylor, I am so happy we did this. Super glad that you all made this connection. And I really want to continue having a conversation with you. But until then, we can wrap up here. I appreciate you, man.
Anytime. Thank you so much.